Hello and welcome to the short-term rental pacifier. Today we're going to talk about why I don't like using average daily rate or ADR as a good metric. I like to use occupancy and RevPAR. I think those are a much better way to judge how your property is performing. And so today we're going to take a market, Winter Park, where we have a one-bedroom condo. May is traditionally one of the absolute worst months in Winter Park. You're coming off a great ski season, and then it gets dead. Even some of the restaurants shut down there. And I used to always think about, man, I want to get the most money per night, most money per night. I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think there's a floor on how much you actually want to lower your prices to, but I think in those off seasons, you can really start to see how your occupancy can really drive that RevPAR, which is the ultimate indicator on how your property is performing. So right now we have a one-bedroom condo in Winter Park, and for the last 30 days, the estimated revenue was $707. The average RevPAR was $25 a night, and the average occupancy was 23%. And so we can take a property that we manage and against those numbers and see that our RevPAR for the past 30 days was 84 versus the market at 25. Our total occupancy for the past 30 days was 90% versus 23. And those numbers are just crazy. And then you look at the estimated revenue, average was $707 and our property was 3,019. Don't love the numbers per se, the actual dollar amounts, especially coming off, a great month in, February, March, and part of April. 3,000 is not that great, but relative to $707, it's awesome. So we come back to daily rate, right? The average daily rate, and if you could see my screen, you would see that it's $110 for the past 30 days on one bedrooms in Winter Park. The average daily rate's $110. So not that great. But when we come and we look and see what our average daily rate was, it was 107. So it's $3 less. So if I'm just looking at average daily rate, I'm not that happy. But when I come down and I look at occupancy, 90% versus 23%, when I look at RevPAR, when the RevPAR was 84 versus 25, which is literally over 3 times more. And then most importantly, what was the actual revenue? It's $3,000 versus 707. So the numbers don't lie. The occupancy in the daily rate, obviously daily rate is important, but it's more important to look at the overall picture with RevPAR and using occupancy to really try to get the most money on your peak times, and then try to find that floor in the low demand times. And if you're looking at my screen, you can also see, in June and the numbers they don't look good, but they are producing the revenue. We're getting good guests in there, but you're seeing $85, $95 a night. You get 140, 150 in there, but then you start going into July and you can see we're already being booked at $500 a night. And even with the Price Labs default, they're saying 166. So the 95th percentile of the market is about $200, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bookings at $500. It's just absolutely insane. So really knowing when to cut, when to raise, because if you think of it this way, I want to be in the 90th, 75th percentile, but prefer 90th percentile of average daily rate in the peak times. But man, when it's that market's slow and it's low demand, that's when I want to be in that bottom 25th percentile of pricing to really drive that occupancy to increase that RevPAR. So if you have any questions, or if there's something that you're doing that's interesting, would love to hear about it. But it's just so important to understand how all these different metrics work in terms of booking window and how that affects occupancy, the seasonality. But RevPAR is that number one indicator and ultimately what's going to bring the most revenue to your bottom line. I hope that's helpful. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please like our podcast, follow us, and would love to hear from you. And take care, and we'll see you next time.